I have to be honest that I underestimated this olam. I thought during finals, getting close to the end of the year, I was expecting to be sitting here with Dovi. and I'm awed and overwhelmed from an olam that understands the chashivos of preparing for Shabbos and Yontif properly, despite the fact that you're all so busy. It really, really, really speaks volumes about your character and your yiras shamayim and so on. And I'm also grateful to the yeshiva. I'm sure you noticed that a little bit of an increase on our usual Thursday night food, and the reason for that is because we wanted it to be L'Kavod Shabbos and L'Kavod Yontif. So you have to add a little bit in the money to make it L'Kavod Shabbos and L'Kavod Yontif. And also, it's very emotional for me, and I know that I'm not the only one that feels this way, that B'Pashtus, this is going to be the last Mishmar of the year. And it's been a tremendous, tremendous year of Mishmars, a tremendous, tremendous time of coming together that's been very, very, very powerful for all of us, and a tremendous yashikayach to everyone that came, and also tremendous yashikayach to my partner in crime, to Shimon behind me, and to all of our musicians. Shimon is thinking about Mishmar already Tuesday. He's thinking about what's going to be, how's it going to go, and the achrayus that he takes for the yeshiva is inspiring and breathtaking. Yashikayach, not just for the music, but for carrying the achrayus. Yeah, you could clap for him. HaKadosh Baruch Hu it almost seems from the Gemara that he burst out when Klal Yisrael said, Na'aseh v'nishma. They said this interesting phrase, we will do and we will hear, not we will hear and we will do. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu yatzasa baska v'amra, the Gemara says, Mi gila razel lebanai, who revealed this secret to my children? How did this secret get out? Shemalachi asharis mishtamshim ba, that the malachim use. This is a malach secret. This is not human beings don't do this. That malachim say na'aseh before nishma. The pasuk says that they're oisim devarai l'shmaya b'kol devarai. They say na'aseh before nishma. What's the secret here? What's the secret of saying na'aseh before nishma? The truth is that the Mishnah tells us that someone whose maisav are merubim mechachmasai, chachmasai miskayemes. If someone's actions are more than his chachma will stand. Shenemar, the Chazal say, Na'aseh v'nishma. Because when they said Na'aseh, they didn't know what they were going to do. So their actions were more than their chachma. Even though they didn't really do the action when they said Na'aseh. But the Chazal, the Mefarshim explain, Rabbi Sonnenschein explains, that when they said Na'aseh, they intended to do all the maisim. And that's already called maisav merubim, because they took it upon themselves to do the actions. So maisav merubim mechachmasai, chachmasai miskayemes, shenemar na'aseh v'nishma. What's the chiddush of saying na'aseh before nishma? The chiddush is, listen to this chiddush. The chiddush is like this. You have a malach, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to the malach, could you do something for me? And the malach says na'aseh and then nishma. Why does he do that? Why does the malach say na'aseh before nishma? He doesn't know what's going to be asked of him. Why does he do that? Because what does a malach mean? What does the word malach mean? You know what the word means? The word malach means a shliach. A malach. Have you ever heard of that the malachim Like for example, it says by Yaakov Avinu that the malachim, some malachim are created just to say Shira to Hashem one time, and when they say Shira that one time, they cease to exist. They die. Why does the malach die when it finishes saying Shira? It did an Aveira. Why does it die? You know why a malach dies when it finishes saying Shira? Because a malach is only his shlichus. The entire existence of the malach is only his shlichus. That's why Chazal say, you ever wondered about this? Do you remember that it says by Avram Avinu that a malach can't do two shlichus? Right, remember that? Well, they can't think, they're not smart enough? They can't do, it's like a stage of development for children, those of you that are learning it, that you could do like, first do this and then do that. That's a stage of... You think malachim are so infantile that they can't do two things? First do this and then do that. What's so terrible? No, a malach can't do two things because a malach is his shlichus and he can't be two people, two malachim. He's completely, every fiber of his being is his shlichus. Ein malach echad oiseh shtei shlichus. And that's why when he finishes his shlichus, he ceases to exist. Because he is only his shlichus. A malach says naaseh before nishma because his entire being is that he's going to do it. He doesn't have to know what it is. The fact that I exist means that I'm going to do it. I am my shlichus. This is my essence. This is who I am. That's the secret that Klal Yisrael came up with. When Moshe Rabbeinu said, do you want the Torah? Klal Yisrael didn't just say, oh, we're going to do a great job. Klal Yisrael said, we are the Torah. There's nothing else. Our whole identity is the Torah. Our being is the Torah. Our entire life is the Torah. Nas, of course we're going to do it. You'll give me the details later. But of course, this is who I am. This is what I am. That's Nasa before Nishma. What an unbelievable thing. But there was something else. So the Klal Yisrael imitated the Malachim. Malachim say Nasa before Nishma, and Klal Yisrael also said Nasa before Nishma. Razeh, this secret. And clearly Klal Yisrael were watching the Malachim. Because in this week's Parsha, in Parshas Bamidbar, it says that Klal Yisrael will be given a matana from Hashem called digalim, flags. Ish al digloi, a man will stand with his flag. Each shevet had its own flag and its own location, its own makayim around the Mishkan. And it says ish al digloi be'oisais. Be'oisais means with signs. But be'oisais is also a lashon of taiva, of desire. And Chazal darshan from Ish al Digloi be'oisais that when Klal Yisrael were by Har Sinai, and they were on a very, very high madrega, they were able to see Malachim. Don't forget, they heard Hashem, they could see Malachim, that's nothing. And they saw the tens of thousands, the rivavos, the tens of thousands of sets of kitos, of groups of malachim, that in an organized and magnificent way, the malachim came down to be malava HaKadosh Baruch Hu to Har Sinai. And Klal Yisrael looked up and they saw tens of thousands of malachim. Can you imagine? It's like beyond comprehension. And Chazal tell us that they looked up at the malachim and they saw that the malachim have flags. They have degalim. And his avu l'degalim, they had a taiva, they wanted flags too. And in this week's parsha, days before we makabel the Torah, for the 3,337th time, this parsha's Bamidbar, we learn about HaKadosh Baruch Hu granting them that wish, giving them the degalim that they had a desire for. What does it mean that they had a desire for flags? I'm a bucky in taiva, okay? I've never had a taiva for a flag, okay? What does it mean? His avu, they had a taiva, they had a desire for flags. What does that mean? So many, many years ago, I had a zchus to spend Shabbos in Bnei Brak. Now, most people, when they think of Bnei Brak, they think of Panevish and the great yeshivas in Bnei Brak. And I did visit Panevish, but that's not why I was there for Shabbos. I was there for Shabbos because a friend of mine had a daven in a shul in Brooklyn that had a Rebbe, and that Rebbe was in Bnei Brak for Shabbos, and he went to Bnei Brak for Shabbos, and I went along. And this Rebbe's son-in-law was a young Rebbe, probably in his 30s, a young Rebbe. He's still alive. He's still a Rebbe today. I've looked him up recently. It's the Kaiden of a Rebbe, if you want to look him up. And this young Rebbe was a Gevoriner. That means that he became Hasidish. He wasn't born Hasidish. He became Hasidish. His father was a Litvischer Rosh Koil. And by Shalosh Shuddis, and I followed this guy around the whole Shabbos. I was very enamored. I really was overwhelmed from this guy. He was just, there was a lot about him that there was something about him. And more about that another time. And by Shalosh Shuddis, I wanted to hear his Shalosh Shuddis. It was a big Mesiras Nefesh for me that I went to Bnei Brak for Shabbos, because all of you have heard me quote my Rosh Hashiva endless times, and I warn you now that I will continue to do so. And what part of that, the foundations of learning from my Rosh Hashiva, how to learn Chumash, was that I used to go to him every single week for Shalosh Shuddis. But this one time, I took a break. I went to Bnei Brak. I used to walk an hour to get to my Rosh Hashiva for Shalosh Shuddis, but the walk from Bnei Brak was too far. So I wanted to go at least to the Kaiden of a Rebbe's Shalosh Shuddis. And it was fascinating. He sat there saying Shalosh Shuddis, his Litvischer father sitting next to him. Very, very interesting. Beautiful to see. And he quoted a chazal that I'll admit I have never found. And I have searched. And maybe I didn't understand Yiddish. But to the best of my recollection, he said the following, and he based it on a Shem Mishmuel, which I have found, and I've read many times. He said that we know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu went around to all the nations and he asked them if they want the Torah. And they each said Maksiv Bey. What does it say in the Torah? They didn't say Nasev and Ishma. Take note. But they said Maksiv Bey. What does it say in the Torah? And each nation, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said what it says in the Torah, something that doesn't fit with the midos of that nation. So each nation passed, and they said, I'm sorry, we're not going to be able to take it. We're Roitzeach, we're Noyef, we're Oived Avodah Zarah. We do all these Averos. We cannot accept the Torah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu came to Klal Yisrael. Klal Yisrael said, no problem, we're in. Okay, the Goyim lost the Matana, we got it. And then the Goyim found out a little secret about us. And that is that we also do Averos. Right? Shortly afterwards, Klal Yisrael worshipped the Egel. And the Goyim were like, 1 second. He asked us if we want the Torah. We would have taken it if we knew that we could take it and do Averos. But we didn't take it because what am I going to do? I do Averos. Now they took it and they do Averos. And they went back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They want a retrial. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu responded to the nations of the world, said the Kaiden of a Rebbe 30 years ago. HaKadosh Baruch Hu responded to the nations of the world, Klum hisavisem l'degalim. Did you ever desire flags? And the case was closed. What's going on here? How does that answer the problem? Explained the Rebbe, based on a Shemi Shmuel, that a flag is what gives you your identity. And when an army is at war, the flag orients you. You know where you are on the battlefield because there's a flag orienting you. You know, my team is that way. And if you get lost, what do you look for to find your way? You look for your flag. Says the Shemi Shmuel, explained to me the first time by the Kaiden of a Rebbe, that when Klal Yisrael saw the Malachim, they saw that they're standing with flags. You know what that means? Those Malachim that say Nasa before Nishma, that their entire identity is their Shlichus, they never lose track of their identity. They never forget. They never get distracted. They never have a bad day. And Klal Yisrael looked up by Har Sinai. They also wanted to be like the Malachim. Raz, Shamalachi Asharis Mishtamshim Bay. They also wanted, they said Nasav and Ishma also. They also wanted to never get lost. They wanted to never do an Aveira. And they begged HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the Galim. So when the nations of the world came to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and said, they do Aveiras, and we do Aveiras, how come we don't deserve the Torah? HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, did you desire the Galim? Did you daven and beg me that you should never do an Aveira? No, you did not. They did. A Yid never wants to fall. A Yid never wants to get distracted. A Yid has a taiva for the Galim. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us the Galim. And by giving us the Galim, what that means is He gave us the power that we can always find our way back. Maybe we're not like Malachim, that we never have a bad day. Oh boy, do we have bad days sometimes. But we have that power of the Degel inside of us that we could find our way home. We could find our way back. What a zechus that we have. That we could so identify with the Torah that no matter how lost a Yid is, Yisrael, afal pi shechata, Yisrael, he never gets lost. A Yid can never be completely lost. Shlomo HaMelech sang in Shir HaShirim the words that the nations of the world whisper to us to seduce us. Shuvi, Shuvi Hashulamis. Shuvi, Shuvi V'nechazeba. The nations of the world whisper on our ears, come. Come, I'll give you positions. I'll entertain you. I'll make you happy. I'll broaden your mind. I'll make you sophisticated. All this stuff that I will offer you, the nations of the world pull at us. And Klal Yisrael responds, listen carefully, the Pasuk in Shir HaShirim. Klal Yisrael responds, Ma techezu b'shulamis. What could you possibly offer Klal Yisrael? Could you offer us the Galim? Could you offer us the circle around the Mishkan in the Midbar when we had our Degalim? No, you can't give us something that's so wired into our being that it's something that we can always come back to. That you can't offer us. You can't offer us an identity that fully goes to our core. And that, Rabbi say, is what we're going to go into Shavuos with. And that's why it's so important, the Parsha of Degalim before Shavuos. When we go into Shavuos and we rejoice that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us the Torah, we're not just people who do Torah. We are Torah. Kutshabrichu ve'oraisa v'Yisrael chadu. We are Torah. We identify with the Torah. It's our core. And yes, sometimes it's easier to be connected to Torah, and sometimes we feel like we drift a little bit from Torah. But we know we have Degalim. You know why we have Degalim? Because we wanted Degalim. Because we begged for it. Because we had a taiva for it. And you too have a taiva for it. That's the taiva for the flag. I told you I never had a taiva for a flag. I wasn't being 100% honest with you. I do have a taiva for a flag, and so do you. I have a taiva when sometimes I feel like I'm drifting away from my purpose, or drifting away from my standing in Ruchnius, or drifting away from my clarity. I have a taiva to be able to come back home, to be able to reconnect with who I know I am. You have that taiva, and I have that taiva, because we were there by Har Sinai, because we also were misaveh to the Galim. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu should help us to be able to rejoice on Shavuos with the knowledge that the Torah is not just that it belongs to us, but it is us. We bond with the Torah. We're fused together with the Torah. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu should be mezakeh us and give us siyata d'shmaya, that in wherever we are, And wherever the journey of our life brings us, that we should bring our degalim with us. That we should always remember that we have a place by HaKadosh Baruch Hu's table. That we have a right to the Torah because it's ours. And that we always, always, always have a path to return to Torah and tremendous strength to hang on and not to let go. Yashakayach.